Well, good afternoon. My name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. Thanks very much for being on here today. Sorry for the delay, a few minutes to get things going, but we're here, and we're going to have a couple more speakers joining us as we go along here. So thanks very much for being on. I'm going to introduce our panel here shortly. What I'd like to do also is just let you know, if you are watching this, that you can just type in your question either in the event area or the stage area just to the right of where you are. I'll also talk about the expo later on, but for now, obviously, you want to be part of the panel of recruiters and you want to be asking questions live. We've got lots of great information that we'll share with you, and it's going to be a good time. So first off, I want to introduce our couple of our guest speakers here, our panelists. We have Denny George, who is a Senior Talent Acquisition Partner at CIBC. Hello, Denny. Thanks for being here. And Dean Delpeache, who's Senior Manager Talent Acquisition at Fiix Software. So thanks very much, guys, for being on here. I know we have a lot of questions that people want to know about recruitment and about interviewing and all that. So anybody has any questions, again, put them in the event or stage chat, and I'll be moderating them as we go along here. So Denny, why don't you start with a quick intro of yourself and kind of what you do and how you got into recruiting, and maybe a tip right off the bat that people can get from you as far as what CIBC is doing from a recruiting perspective.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Marc, and to my partner in crime, Dean, for today. It's great to be just on this forum because we have a great opportunity to share and influence, right? So a little about my background. I'm actually a human resources guy by training. I happen to be from a top school in India, did my MBA program, and I transitioned into being to start with being in the financial sector in India during booming time when we used to have the stocks and shares being dematted into electronic digital. I started my career with retail companies, and also then had the opportunity to work for a very good international company called Al Marai in Saudi just for 2 years. I ran out of steam because of the place, right? And then I moved into Dubai and I worked with Citibank. Fantastic opportunity to grow that the line of business and liabilities. And then I moved into Al Futtaim, which had to do with a lot of retail stores like what you have here, the Best Buy kind of retail stores, and the IKEA. I used to manage them. And then I moved into First Gulf Bank, again on the banking side, and then into what I enjoy the most, love cars. So I was fortunate to support an enterprise which was the sole distributor of Ferrari, Maserati, Land Rover, Jaguar, Ford, and DAF trucks in Dubai, and then I had the opportunity to come back to Canada. My first not-for-profit was in the Dixie Blue Neighborhood Center, right? I mean, who gets to work for not-for-profit after working for on the private sector? So it really taught me how do you work with constraints and still be in fact an influence. And then I moved to I had a transition there, and then I was fortunate to have an opportunity to work with RBC downtown, and also had 10 months of stint with the contact center and diversity hiring. So Dean, to your point, we used to hire 3-4 people every cohort in RBC. And since 2013, I've been with CIBC as a senior talent acquisition partner. I've taken care of varied roles, like right from wealth management to governance to marketing to communication. And then I really started focusing where the money comes in, which is mobile advice. Mortgage advisors, area sales leaders, regional directors. Then on the investment side, mobile investment consultant and area sales leaders to build the portfolio, and then took care of the strategy part of the group that supports from the back end supports the front runners. That in brief is my if it was brief.
Okay, well, that's great.
Thank you.
So, and Dean, and Paul, by the way, we're getting an echo here from you. So you want to close maybe one of your browsers or whatever? I have you on mute, by the way. So you might have another browser open on the on this platform. So, hey, Dean, how are you? Nice to see you once again. Dean has been a great supporter of our events as well over the last little while. So, Dean, why don't you talk about your background in recruiting, and thanks, Diana, as well. We'll get to you in a second. So, Dean, why don't you talk about your company, what you recruit for, maybe a little bit about your background as well?
Yeah, for sure. So, first of all, Mark, thank you again for having me in TorontoJobs.ca, and appreciated that introduction, Denny, and in your vast experience. It's fantastic. And also to my other colleagues, Diana and Paul, it's good to have you on the call as well. Just a little bit about my background. I've spent about the last 10 years or so in the areas of recruitment, talent management, as well as working in on diversity and inclusion and equity programs and matters. I started my career, if I could say it, in the staffing industry, and a client of mine kind of said, I want to take you and come over from the dark side into the light, so to speak, and then started my journey in a software organization working on the corporate side. And while I was working in the corporate side, because I was working specifically in HR as a lead recruiter at that time, I got exposure to a lot of HR projects, and one of those specifically dealt with employment engagement. And as I was going through kind of the insights from it, I recognized a lot of the demographic information on gender and different things of that nature. And that really sparked an interest in me to really kind of look at diversity issues. And through that, I decided to kind of, I guess you'd call it just to enhance my learning, and went back to school, did a master's in human resource management at York University. And I also did a certificate in leadership and inclusion at Centennial. And most of my focus in my master's was on diversity, inclusion, and equity issues. And so now, in my day-to-day work, I work at a company called Fiix Software. We're a medium-sized software organization in Toronto, based out of Toronto. And my role is twofold. So I focus half of my time on managing our recruitment teams and talent teams. And then the other half, I'm accountable for our diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging strategy. And then aside from that, I'm also a consultant in diversity and inclusion, and with organizations and helping them set up their diversity strategy, also do workshops and partner with them on different things of that nature. And I'm also a professor at George Brown College. I created the first diversity inclusion curriculum for the college, and I am the primary professor for that as well. So kind of a vast, I guess, round of experience, and just really hope to, help and add anything I can to this recruitment conversation, but with an inclusion lens.
Awesome. So we're going to come back to, of course, diversity is a hot issue right now. But I wanted to share some stats here that there was a recent report from Fishbowl that found that 89% of HR workers expect their organization to respond with public solidarity for Black Lives Matter. I don't know if you saw that survey, but we're going to come back. It's obviously a hot topic right now. So let's turn to Diana YK-Chan. Let's call her Diana, right? So Diana, why don't you talk about yourself? Hi, thanks very much for being here. Why don't you talk about kind of what you do, give people who are on an idea as to what your area of specialization is, and how you can help job seekers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me back again, TorontoJobs.ca, and Mark, really appreciate it. So hi, everyone. I'm Diana YK-Chan. I'm a former recruiter turned career coach, speaker, and trainer at Marketability. For the last 10 years, I help job seekers from entry-level, mid-level to senior-level professionals and executives to stand out, get hired, and earn more. I've worked with professionals from 20 plus industries, over 30 plus professions, getting hired into top companies such as the top banks, top consulting firms, top technology companies as well. Prior to starting my own business, I also worked in corporate. I started off my career at TELUS, where I worked in marketing, operations, and training. And then I pivoted into management consulting at Accenture in a human capital consulting there. And then after that, I started my career in recruiting, where I was recruiting for the Ivy Business School, an MBA, executive MBA program. And then I got hired into Google Canada as the first and only recruiter here in Google Toronto to help them double their office size there, specializing recruiting in digital sales roles there. And then I also worked on the agency recruiter side, where I've recruited in pharmaceutical, financial services, and tech companies such as like TELUS, Bell, AstraZeneca, J&J, and many more. So I've seen tons of resumes. I have got good insight of what employers look for and how to really differentiate as top talent there.
Excellent. And what a varied panel we have here. So, and by the way, if you have any questions, if you're watching and you have any questions, just throw them in the event chat on the right-hand side or in the stage chat. This is live. So we want you to get as much information as possible during the segment. So Paul Hamilton, Director of Talent Acquisition for LCBO.
Is my audio okay? Can you hear me? Is there still an echo?
Yeah, there is an echo. So you have another browser open. So.
I don't have any other browsers open. I do apologize, folks. This is when technology is working, it's your best friend, and when it's not, we run into these situations. Listen, I would encourage you to, if you can hear me, go look at my LinkedIn profile to see my history. What I want to share with you is why I am still in recruitment today. When I started, I worked for an agency, and I placed a gentleman at a company called HMV. And for those that are old enough to recall HMV, it was a music store that sold records, DVDs, cassette players. So I'm aging myself here. The gentleman, I was an agency, and I placed the gentleman. I moved on to a different search, but he called me back. And he was relentless. And I wouldn't answer the phone because I was too busy trying to place someone else and make more money. When he finally got a hold of me, he said, you know what, I want to thank you. And I said, no problem. You put money in my pocket, so I appreciate that. But he goes, no, I want to thank you because of this opportunity that you gave me as a recruiter. I was able to relocate my family from a European country that was in strife at the time and bring them to Canada and give them a new sense of hope and a new sense of prosperity. And from that moment, that was back in, I don't know, I'm 20 years into this, so maybe 2005, 2004, something along those lines. From that experience is why I still continue to be a recruiter. And I'm so passionate about it. I've worked at great organizations such as Microsoft, LCBO, BMO, Rogers, but really it's about the people. It's about the people that I get to work with on a day-to-day basis. And more importantly, the people that I get to help in terms of placing, finding them a job, and ensuring that it's a part of their life. You spend more time with your employees and your colleagues than you do with your own family. So you want to make sure that you're really supporting them in finding an opportunity that aligns well with their personal life and their personal values. So that's why I'm in recruiting. That's why I'm so passionate about it. Thank you very much, Marc, for this opportunity and for this incredible panel. Dean, you're in diversity inclusion. And when you look at the mosaic of this speaker group right here, you got to recognize that Marc and team are doing a great job in assembling some great speakers. So thank you for this opportunity, Marc.
No problem. Thank you for being on. I'm going to mute when I'm on, Paul, because I think it's coming from your, but it sounds like it's okay now. So that's great. So let's talk, big item issue right now is diversity. One of the stats, according to a LinkedIn poll, diversity content received 1.8 times more engagement than the average company post. This is from a LinkedIn poll. But in North America, diversity received 2.6 times more engagements than average. Dean, why don't you talk about that? Your role obviously surrounds diversity and inclusion. So what are you guys doing? What are you seeing? And by the way, if anybody has any questions, make sure to put them in either the event or the stage chat, and I'll moderate as we go along here.
Yeah, I mean, great question. If I could be quite transparent, I think a lot of organizations, especially those that are those more Fortune 1000 companies, have been trying to do the work of diversity, inclusion, and equity for quite a while. This is not, a brand new topic. This has been a while around for quite a bit. But the one thing that I would say that you've seen is that most organizations have been really, really focused on, hiring. So, really, how do we find talent that comes from diverse backgrounds and experiences and bring them into our organizations. Now, since I would say kind of the death of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and many others, where we've seen the rise of social justice and activism, the one thing you're finding with companies now is companies are saying, okay, we recognize that bringing in talent is important, but we really, really need to hone down on how can we ensure people feel included, and how can we ensure equity in our organizations, fairness and an opportunity for all. And I think that's where you're seeing what you're seeing right now with organizations, kind of that shift. So I've been getting several calls from organizations saying, we really need your help. Come help us, really support this change and this transformation. And I think that's what you're seeing really, really take place and happen right now. So, that's kind of what I've been seeing from organizations and the questions that have been coming up.
Excellent. Paul, anything to add on that, diversity-wise, inclusion, what LCBO is doing to bring the subject more to the forefront?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, companies are recognizing they don't have an option anymore. The reality is it's a movement that is going to be here, and it's going to change the economic and the business landscape. But secondly, more importantly, the employees are starting to recognize that it is a part of their identification. People are starting to feel more comfortable with identifying not only from a Black Lives Matters perspective, but from every single diversity group out there. There is a platform and a burning desire. So companies need to recognize if they want to retain good talent and attract good talent, their values around diversity and inclusion has to be at the forefront. You're seeing companies now that are changing their employee value proposition and their recruitment marketing and their employment brand to focus on highlighting their efforts around diversity and inclusion. And I think it's fantastic. It's long overdue, and it's going to be sustained over a long period of time. So as employees are starting to develop and redefine their talent acquisition strategy and going to market, one of the key pillars is how do we ensure that people can recognize what our position is when it comes to D&I initiatives.
Excellent. Well said. So if you're just joining, my name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. We have the recruiters panel. You're welcome to ask questions live. You can type them in the event portion of the chat, or you can type them in the stage portion. So Denny, George, CIBC, what have you noticed? Anything, other comments that CIBC has done? And also on that, like how do you think somebody would recognize that, CIBC or a company has made those changes in diversity, like recognizing that diversity is an issue, Black Lives Matter, like what's been going on at your company?
Yeah, thank you, Marc. I think thank you, Dean and Paul. I think looks like you guys have done some tremendous work in that area proactively, as opposed to so you kind of seamlessly walked into being leaders in that space. As financial institutions, we sometimes are reacting to a kind of a messaging. But we are also constantly adapting. Like I was telling you about RBC, we constantly have a certain metric that needs to be reported to the federal government about our diversity and inclusion initiatives. So that's a standard foundational base of where we are. But the fact that we've had external and internal influences of events that have catapulted this theme to recognize that it's about time, like Paul said, this is not an option, it's not a choice, but it is an imperative mandate that is being rolled out as part of any talent acquiring initiative that you may have, right? So for us in the bank, we really take a stock of, as to where we are, where we want to be, where we would have ideally been. When we look at some of the metrics of where RBC is on certain of the diversity inclusion metrics, whether it be LGBT or it be Black Lives Matter or it be visible minority, right? And some of the strength with which visible minority and women continue to be that diverse workforce, but there were certain opportunities and touch points of juxtaposing those metrics into value and into lines of business and the impacts and the influence and the metrics thereof of that resource, right? But what now has happened, we have a great leader who's heading the charter for the Black Lives Matter and those initiatives in the bank post the event that happened, right, in the US and had its impact in North America. It's just building the blocks, if I may use that word, building the blocks of the existing initiatives, but also leveraging it and giving it a lot more fire in terms of being focused as to what we would look at. So earmarking roles where we see a great fit, identifying and budgeting leadership positions just happened 2 weeks back, where we are saying that the preferred candidate, we're calling it out. We would never be calling this out before. We're calling this out and saying these positions require the caliber from the Black community. And that is how our sourcing and our strategic initiatives will be in and around availability of that talent pool. So our focus is targeting talent pools in a specific community. So that's never happened before. That energy and that direction never happened before. But the fact that it's happened, it really brings that story live. That's something that should have happened in the past, the effects and the impacts and the influences of which would have ironed out, is now the question. You must and you will, and we shall see the impacts thereof, right? So I think everybody is working in a very close tight quarters, if I may use that word. We are doing Boolean searches within our databases to look at people from diversity groups and with different orientations, which did not happen before. Yeah. So it really brings to life that I think the proof of the pudding is in eating it. If your initiatives are platonic, it'll fall through the cracks. But if your initiatives are driven with metrics, and if, say, the leaders are going to be measured, because whatever gets measured gets done. So if it is built into your PMM, performance appraisal scores, for certain leaders, we have a big, huge diversity and inclusion team. And I'm sure the head of that division has got a metric, and that metric is going to cascade down to the bottom of that pyramid. And it's going to go laterally to talent acquisition and talent management and business leaders and all of that, right? And that's the only way it can happen. So there's good work in progress. I want to salute people who are taking that initiative and really driving that forward. I think Paul has done a fantastic job. Dean and Diana also has great stories there. But I rest my case. This is an imperative. It is not a choice, and it will be done, right?
That's great.
Thank you.
Great points from everybody. So let's move to really the job market, and let's get into more nitty gritty specifics for people. I'm seeing a few questions coming in about job search, which the attendees here today are very focused. They want to hear your expertise on finding a job. So let's talk about really the job market first, and then we'll get into more specifics on job search strategies. So from a jobs perspective in Canada, we lost 3 million jobs across Canada from the pandemic. We lost 1 million jobs in March. We lost 2 million in April. Total of 3 million. We've regained about 1.9 million of those jobs, albeit they might not be full time and so on. We're about there's 4.4 people applying to any particular job posting right now. Before the pandemic, there were 2.2 people applying for every job posting on average. We've also seen a situation where there's been a lot of females who have lost their jobs in traditional female-dominated industries like retail, hospitality, travel, tourism, food services, and so on. And a lot of mothers have had to drop or stop their careers. So, a lot of things are happening all at the same time, obviously due to the pandemic. So maybe Diana, let's talk a little bit more about the job search side of it. And, you're in that area helping people find jobs. Talk about, how you would network with recruiters if you're a job seeker, how you would network with employers, kind of some trends that you're seeing from a job search perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, there's definitely more competition, right? Like more people lost their jobs, and so there's just going to be more competition in the job market. However, I have seen the last several months that things have definitely picked up. Like I have clients interviewing like sales, marketing, operations, security, IT, product, digital roles right now. And so things have definitely picked up. I've been busier than ever, the last several months. So I am seeing things picking up. Now, I think the key here is how can you really stand out? How can you stay more competitive as a candidate? If you're looking to pivot into a different industry or different role, you really need to understand, what does it take to be successful in this new area? So you definitely need to do the research. From my experience, and having worked with a lot of job seekers, I found a lot of my clients get hired faster through networking and referrals versus just applying online. Most people come to me to saying that they've already applied for hundreds of jobs and it's been not effective. And I really advise them through networking where they can get hired in a couple of weeks or a couple of months there. So to me, one of the big questions, how do you really network? I think first things first is that you need to, one, get really targeted in terms of your ideal role and the companies that you're targeting. And then you really want to do your research in terms of understanding the company and really figure out whether the recruiter recruits in your space. Because if they don't recruit in your area in terms of your profession, they really can't help you there. So you want to find the right recruiter to network with. And most people tell me they're not comfortable with networking. So I think what I always recommend is instead of going to your dream company first to network, test the waters out with the people you already know in your own network to get comfortable with networking. And then through that, ask people in your network to see if they know anyone else in their network that they can make introductions to, because then you're more likely to get that introductory meeting with that person in their network there.
Excellent. So Denny, a couple of questions here, and you can relate to this because I remember when I first met you, you had just came to Canada,
some of them.
Right? And so a couple of questions are coming in here about, what would you recommend for somebody new to Canada looking for a job? Talk about your experience maybe a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reading a couple of comments there on the event, people that are asking. Let's be honest. We may not be able to cover everything, but Diane, you're doing a fabulous job. So hats off to you for all the wonderful career coaching that you do, right? I think you're helping people get to market quicker. And that's what I help them do and volunteer my time as well. Being a mentee of HRPA and also local communities. But I think it's important. I got this when I came as a foreign trained professional, that you seem to be competing with a very, very strong talent pool. But you opted Toronto. You didn't opt for Winnipeg. You opted for Toronto. Toronto is a very strong talent pool. So given that you opted for Toronto and talent pool so strong as this, how do you really navigate the system? So to Diane's point, networking is key, but I also share, especially for people that have come from different countries, your personal branding is going to be questioned. How you come across, how when you walk out of the house to Walmart, and you stand in that COVID line in a tattered jeans. Sorry, I just have to do the story quickly. And then you turn around and you find, who do you find? You find the CEO of Audi. And the CEO of Audi may really not have the conversations because there's a possibility that your personal branding did not impress him or her. I'm saying this because I could franchise the senior leader of Audi to move from Scotia in that Walmart line during COVID, just because of the personal branding, not because of Denny George, senior talent acquisition partner in CIBC, but no, personal branding. So may I humbly submit this to every person that is seeking the job. The moment you step out of your home, please be in the knowledge that you are being watched. How you carry yourself, in groceries, because you could be having a CEO next door when you're really losing your head over a banana being bad or whatever. But how you carry yourself, I had to say that, sorry. But how you lose your head, or so how you carry yourself, whether it is a grocery or Tim Hortons, or how do you line in this COVID line patiently, very diligently, respecting, complying, all is about your personal brand. The dress that you wear, you're not in your PJs trying to talk to a networking and saying, hey guys, can I just network in your PJ? Oh my God. Seriously? I mean, how did you even make that? How dare you ask that question? So I'm trying to be a little melodramatic here, but we learn from our mistakes that if your personal branding, if you don't really mature to get it to be in an immaculate shape and size, you will not be able to have conversations. You will not be able to have the impact and influence, so much so that somebody will open their networks to you and say, hey, let's chat up. What do you do? They need to ask you that question, what do you do? And then you have the 60-second elevator pitch, and you just go boom, 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 right? So personal branding, I personally think your resume, Diane has been doing wonderful work in the areas of resume and all of that coaching, but your resume and cover letters are just an extension of your personal brand. If you're in person, now COVID situations have changed you, but in person, if your personal brand takes more importance, an extension of resume and resumes takes secondary, right? And when you apply for jobs, you're lost in the crowd. Seriously. So what do? You really take on, like you use the word pivot. I love the word pivot. I've got so many people using the word pivot. I don't know where to hide with this word, but let's use the word pivot. So when you pivot, how do you pivot to ensure that your credentials and your skills and experience, I beg to differ, not Canadian experience, your skills and experience and your personal branding, how can you pivot and leverage it during your networking? I said this in another forum, Mark, and I'm going to make it very short and simple. People tell me nice things. You look good. Look me up on LinkedIn. I've got a casual blue T-shirt, which I got when I went for that HRPA event, Mark. 3 years back, we had the blue T-shirt, and somebody was snapping and clicking. I said, go for it, man. Denny, George, take a shot. Put it up there on LinkedIn. So people say nice things about that color just to get my attention. So I invite them into the network. The very 20-second, or I would say there would be a winner gets the prize. Within 30 seconds, I've got 6 of them hitting me with LinkedIn messages saying, hey, this is my resume. This is the LinkedIn. Fix a job. And I said, I didn't ask for that. I opened my network, ladies and gentlemen, so that you can socialize with me. We can always exchange ideas. So very critical for newcomers that they need to be market intelligent to know that a recruiter is your gateway to success who will leverage your credentials in front of a hiring manager. When I got into TD, Edward Clark was my role model, but he didn't get me into TD. That recruiter who believed in my abilities got me into the associate program, but then I survived panel very smartly and managed to get in. Just about managed to get in, right? So the point I'm trying to make is, ladies and gentlemen, whoever has newcomers or globally trained professionals, align to values, Canadian values of market intelligence to see what is the role of a recruiter. I am paid whatever I am to really dedicate my life to the 3 lines of business for which I am held accountable. I am willing to volunteer and help you on LinkedIn, provide you guidance. Given COVID, we get a little more time that we can expand, but you don't throw a resume at me and say, please fix me a job. So if your social media and your social capital is not aligned and it is really tarnished by one or two missed opportunities of how you bombed, trust me, I'm telling you this, but some of the people will not even come back to you and said, oh, this was the guy who said, get me a job I can do. There's a guy who's written to me, sorry, you do me this favor, I will do you this favor. How about that? Does it work for you? On LinkedIn. And I'm saying, I mean, negotiation at its best. I love you being daring, but you really damaged your brand, for heaven's sake. So let's be very cautious that when you get into a market intel and social connection on LinkedIn, Indeed, or whichever be the case, let's just stay and get to know the groups they're part of, talk about and comment on things, right? The third most important thing is, which I personally want to reassure every newcomer that's come to Canada and globally trained professional, Canadian experience has a strong bias, but Canadian experience does not really matter as much as you are able to showcase your skills and experience and your fit to the role. I talk about Shruti Sinha, a Deloitte person from India who got my attention by saying just one word on LinkedIn. Denny, I don't know you, but I do know that CIBC has a role of a data scientist. I do not want to miss the bus. I will be able to really make the mark if given an opportunity to talk to a recruiter. Would it be possible to spare just a small conversation to really help me with some magic? What nice. My ears perked with that note. I immediately jumped on. Even if I was busy, I said, okay, Shruti, let's talk about your resume. Long story short, I spruced up the resume, two rounds of coaching, talked to Angel. Angel was the other recruiter. They already had made a decision of almost finalizing the candidate. This is what Angel said to the hiring manager. Hey, guy, just hold it.
Right.
Meet this candidate, hold your decision, and then let's talk. This lady, Shruti Sinha, got on top of that list, Mark, and became today the senior consultant at CIBC with just 6.5 years of experience in a combination of Deloitte and this, just because she believed that she has not the Canadian experience, but she had it in it to add value to CIBC. I rest my case. Thank you.
That's excellent. Excellent. Thanks very much, Denny George. So Denny George, Senior Talent Acquisition Partner, CIBC. Great stories. So I want to get around to everybody else. Real takeaways. So Dean, we talked about, well, Denny specifically talked about social media, LinkedIn. What are the tools that you use to find candidates on social media? What tips would you have for job seekers that are using LinkedIn? What attracts you to a certain candidate or turns you off, perhaps?
No problem, Mark. Yeah, no, I'll be quite quick on this. So I do concur with Diana's point and Denny's as well that referrals and networking is very, very important. And just to kind of add to Denny's point, I think optimizing your personal professional digital brand is extremely important in today's day. And so, for example, making sure your LinkedIn profile is optimized. There's about 8 actual gold factors that LinkedIn has to ensure that if a recruiter is searching for you, your actual profile, goes to the top. And it's not just about putting the same keyword in your profile over and over again. There's actually machine learning that goes into the can actually search for a profile and bring your profile to rise to the top. So, I would encourage everyone to make sure your LinkedIn profile is definitely optimized. At Fiix, what we do is we use various channels in order to find talent, all the way from different social media channels like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn as our primary professional tool. But then one thing that I probably should mention in this discussion that I think is quite important, especially with the first question that came out about D&I, is forming partnerships. So we form quite a bit of community partnerships with different organizations. One that comes to mind is Venture Out, that focuses on the LGBT community. And Venture Out, what they're able to do is channel to us a pipeline of talent that comes from the LGBT space. Also, BPTN, the Black Professionals Technology Network, is another one that's absolutely fantastic in terms of channeling to us talent from communities with different experiences that may be more marginalized. So I think there's various avenues and channels that individuals can go through to be a part of the actual recruitment process. That also includes, as Diane mentioned, networking and being a part of the referral channel as well.
Awesome. Great tips. Dean Delpeache, Fiix Software. And you've got a couple of hundred positions you're saying you're looking to fill?
Yeah, so over the next few years, we'll be filling quite a lot of positions in the product development area. And so definitely, I mean, those who are on the call, reach out to me. Love to connect with you on LinkedIn personally. Excellent.
See, people who are here, great opportunity there. So, okay. So, Paul, you have a question here as well. How can a job seeker address gaps in their resume?
I would say the first thing is be authentic. You know, I think we are in a day and time where, especially with COVID, I mean, we are in unprecedented times. And, you know, as someone who myself, I've had gaps in my resume, the first thing I would say is be authentic, be honest about what those gaps are, but also indicate during that period, what did you do to fill that gap? So whether it's professional development, whether it's you needed a sabbatical to, I don't know, publish a book, or you just needed some time to refresh, regroup, and refocus, or as Denny would say, pivot and determine what area you want to shift your career to. So I think the authenticity is super important in today's day and age. And a lot of companies are, as a result of COVID, I think being a little bit more empathetic when it comes to looking at people's careers. Three things I would say when it comes to job search. Number one is I think candidates have to be more like recruiters. And what I mean by that is if you're simply applying online, you are going to have a low probability of success. What you need to do, as we as recruiters have done, especially when we're working for the agency side, you need to be relentless. You need to be working your network, working the phones, finding through your network who you have a contact with within that organization, and just continue to build, reach out, and highlight your professional capabilities. More importantly, how are you going to solve a problem that that company has, directly or indirectly? So you want to make sure that you present yourself as a solution. Number two, and you know, Denny said it, Dean, you've touched on it. Your brand, your digital brand, your personal brand speaks volumes. Now, I would not encourage anyone to change or morph into something that you're not. I think it's imperative that you come as you are and you find an organization that accepts you as you are. So that is really important. Don't become a chameleon. Be who you are, be your authentic self, and present yourself in such a way. But again, ensure that you find an organization that is aligned with your personal value, which is something that Diana sort of talked on, which is my third point. You have to do your homework. There's no point in applying to every single organization out in the universe. It's important that you identify an organization that is going to acknowledge your capabilities, that is doing something that you're really passionate about. And thirdly, most importantly, is an organization that has a track record of accepting and welcoming, rather not just accepting, but welcoming diverse population. So, you know, right now, the LCBO, we're about to embark on launching, 2,500 to 3,000 retail positions as we support and gear up for our holiday season. You know, we do $2.37 billion in revenue, and that money is going to, support education, the infrastructure, and healthcare. But as an organization, we've done something that I think is just unheard of. We started a speaker series called Spark the Conversation. And the whole purpose of that is to educate our managers and our employees and our leaders on the importance of a diversity inclusion and making sure that is embedded into the fabric of who we are. And that comes from the top. You know, Denny said this. If it's built into PAs for your leaders, then it will absolutely cascade down into the rest of the organization. At the LCBO, our president and CEO, George, has made it a personal mandate that he wants everyone to have visibility and knowledge and do their part when it comes to diversity inclusion. And Dean, I thank you. I thank you for naming the names of Brianna, of naming the folks that have been impacted by this, that have lost their lives, because until we can actually say their names and acknowledge what they've experienced, then this just becomes a task. But now it's built into who we are as a society. And I think we all have an opportunity to make a significant difference. So those are the three things. Number one, most importantly, be your authentic self. Number two, do your research. You have to find 5 or 6 companies that you can target. And when I say do your research, I mean, be relentless, be a recruiter now, transition, get on the phone. It's not just filling out online applications. That doesn't work anymore because there's so many people doing the exact same thing. You've got to take it to the next level, which is, be direct, get in front of people, make sure you're making the right phone calls, establishing the right relationships, and be relentless. Keep going until you get the right response. And then the third piece, of course, is find an organization that is going to align with your personal and professional values.
Well said.
Can I add on what Paul said? I can tell, Paul, that coming from my agency recruiting background here, what you said about be like a recruiter. Something I advised my clients is, I share my experience as well. In order for me to hire one person, I usually need to look at 1,000 profiles in order to narrow down to my top 100 list. So I always tell my clients, go find your top 100 list of people that you want to network with at your target firms. Yes. And I had one client, one of my superstar client, who was really, he was very goal-oriented, wanted to get into one of the top telco firms. Bell, Telus, Rogers, one of them. He found over 120 people to network with. And at the end, he networked with over 12 people, and he got an introduction. And I actually then referred him to one of the organizations, which then that person introduced him to the hiring manager. And that's how he got hired. And so when you say they'll think like a recruiter, it's really having that hunter mentality to put yourself out there.
Absolutely.
A great experience to work in recruiting. I mean, this is my 25th year. And, it just opened your eyes to like how the world works in terms of matching and finding a job, and how important it is to network and make contacts. It's not just, like you said, Paul, applying online. Like that's can be part of it to, accentuate it. But that's it. Coming back to your point on sales, the #1 job on LinkedIn, most in-demand job right now is salesperson. Do you know that? Very competitive to find salespeople for organizations. So, a little bit of sales will be good for everybody's background. So, Diana, let's come back to you. We have a question from Paula Brown who's asking, what recommendations would you give to a mother returning to work?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, I definitely work with clients who are looking to return back to work. I think first things first is, probably your needs might have changed. So I think it's really getting clear on your criteria in terms of like, what are your non-negotiables? So for example, some could be finding a place close to home, have more flexible hours. Getting really clear on what your non-negotiables are is really important, and getting clear in terms of what the ideal role looks like is important. So that's really the first step, which is self-assessment piece. And then the second is really finding organizations that align with your core values, that value what you value as well, and do research that way, where you can conduct some informational interviews. I actually know someone who actually went to the similar, returning back to work. She actually, before she actually went on mat leave, she went to do her networking, where she networked with people within the organization. And when she came back to work, she was in a different department within like one of the banks there. And, one of her biggest lessons learned was actually planting the seeds. When I started planting the seeds of where she wants to go. And so that when time comes, people will keep her in mind. So the goal here is you want to be top of mind there, and to also sharpen your value proposition and your elevator pitch.
Excellent. Dean, I have a question for you. What do you see the future of IT jobs? Increasing, decreasing, staying the same in terms of the number of job openings?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think COVID has really, really shown us that we're now entering into a new transformation of a digital, technological, and automated space. So, I mean, you got to think about it from the perspective of the Industrial Revolution. When the Industrial Revolution happened, there was a big change, and that's what we're experiencing now. And so what you're going to find is the need to automate quite a bit is going to increase, and automation requires product developers, software developers, requires people who could code, and you're going to see a lot more changes in various industries too. I'm not just talking about that, but specific, because this question is specific to IT and technology. I think, you are going to see a shift. It really depends on the company. It depends on the product offering. I think one thing you're also going to see is a lot of disruptors come in, right? Organizations that can really, disrupt the status quo of what companies have been doing for the last a little while. And so you're going to see quite a bit of these things happen. So, as kind of I mentioned to you, Mark, even before we even got on this call, where COVID would have plummeted a lot of technology companies' profitability, you're actually seeing a shift and a change where organizations are actually making money during this time. So, I think it's going to be on the up, in my personal preview.
Excellent. So we've just got a minute or two left here. Just wanted to open it up. Anybody else have anything they want to add, but keep it really brief, because want to get a minute or two, then we'll have wrap up comments there, and want to encourage people to visit the expo, because there's some opportunities there to check out some products and services that might be of interest to people too. So any other last minute comments? Paul Hamilton, LCBO, raising his finger.
Mark, I want to say first and foremost, again, thank you for this. And to all the job seekers who have spent the last 45, 50 minutes with us, it's a tough market out there. It really is a change, and COVID has added a layer of complexity that we have never seen before. However, don't be a stat. Don't be the 60% have lost their jobs. You are your own brand. You are your own individual, and leverage folks like us to help you get to that next position. So if you're not in position right now, we could help you. We'll do what we can to help you, because we know that when we're successful, you're successful, and vice versa. If you're currently in a job, but you want to make a change, then this is a good opportunity to think about clean slate. What do you want to do? Who do you want to be when you grow up? And you can do that activity now. This is an environment that allows you to take advantage of it, so please do. But again, if you are struggling, if you're trying to find a job, please reach out to Mark. He's got phenomenal resources, an unbelievable network. Take advantage of it. And again, we want to do what we can to help you as well.
Appreciate that, Paul. Paul Hamilton, LCBO. Denny, raising your hand.
Yeah. Thank you. That was a great summary, Paul. You just hit it. It's like a running train. Fantastic. But I just wanted to say to a lot of newcomers here, COVID has actually forced us to adopt and adapt and acquire technologies, interfaces for recruiting that we weren't prepared for. I mean, look at Hopin, such a wonderful channel. Mark introduced me to it. We use Microsoft Teams, and we're having issues there. We're using Skype for interview, and we're having issues there. What I was wanting to say, I saw in my interviews a couple of people losing it, right? Because I've got a fast-moving Bell mobility, and I thought I could be the ambassador for Bell. But what I'm saying is, despite all the technologies in the world, there are going to be interruptions. So newcomers, globally trained professionals, when you get an opportunity for an interview, bundle up, take on a lot of patience, drink a lot of water. When there are interruptions, just smile. Oh, no problem. Just say it.
Diana, any last minute comments for me?
Just to honestly, you gotta adapt and embrace change. Like, adaptability is one of the core skills employers. And one of my favorite saying is, you got to own your greatness with confidence to shine and stand out. It is a competitive market, so you really got to bring it all and showcase your assets and what you bring to the table, and network.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much. So Denny George, CIBC, Dean Delpeache, Fiix Software, Diana YK Chan. Reach out to Diana if you need some help on your job search. Paul Hamilton, LCBO. What a great breadth of experience in this group. I want to really thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know everybody's really busy. I'd also like to just say that for the people there, this platform will actually go on for about another 8 minutes or so. It goes till 10 after the hour. So depending on what you're, where you are in Canada that you're watching this, you can certainly check out the expo. So we got another 8 minutes or so before you go. And how you get to the expo along the left-hand side, you just click on the expo icon, and you'll be able to find out more information. And the reception also, you'll be able to find out information about our upcoming events. And that includes our career conference that's happening this Friday from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. We also have our Tech Career Conference happening next Monday, September 28th from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And also our Sales Conference that's happening on September 30th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. So these are all virtual events. They're all on this platform. For more information about those events, just visit TorontoJobs.ca/news. That's TorontoJobs.ca/NEWS. And you can also visit our TorontoJobs.ca YouTube channel. We have a number of videos there on job search topics that you can watch. I'm on our TorontoJobs.ca Facebook page every weekday Eastern time from 12 o'clock to 12:15. I talk about a different job search topic every day. And I wanted to, again, thank you for all your support for this event. We'll be doing this event again at some point in the future, but hopefully you can come to our different career conferences that we're putting on. And Denny, great stories from CIBC. Dean, awesome. You've been great with all our other events as well. And I want to thank you for speaking. Diana, your experience is invaluable. Paul, talking about what's happening at LCBO. And I would encourage everybody watching to connect with anybody on the panel as well as myself. And I put my email address in one of the chat buttons as well here. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if there's anything I can help out with. And as I said, you got about 5 minutes. Check out the expo, and look forward to connecting with you. And thanks very much, all of you, for being here. Really great. Really appreciate it. And I see it in the comments, a lot of great feedback. Thanking you all for providing your input and sharing your experience with people to help them find a job, because it's right now it's time for us to all support each other, which is great. So thanks very much. And if you can all stay on just for a second, and we'll stop broadcasting live here, and wish everybody a great evening. And thanks very much for being here and attending. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.